Lon Esmond here for Betting in the Break. I am your host. I will be joined again by Sniper West this week. He's going to be joining us most Saturday nights when he can make it and giving us some great college football picks. Hey, the premise of the show is one of two things has happened. If you're an avid sports gambler, you are either up or you're down. And you've got a few late games to either roll your bankroll and make even more and take everybody out to a nice late steak dinner, or maybe that Japanese teppanyaki place. We'll see. Anyway, or you're down, you're running to the ATM, and you're trying to get whole. So Wes is going to give you some picks. I'm going to give you some advice. We're going to talk about the late college games first, and then we've got a little bit of NFL stuff that we want to talk about. I honestly am not picking a bunch of NFL games. I'm going to go through why I'm not on each of them, and we'll go through that as well. But first, sign up to the King of Sportsbooks with the BetMGM welcome offer, up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Must be 21 plus in a legalized state. Terms and conditions apply. So the offer is first bet offer up to $1,500 in bonus bets. I believe that's if you lose. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. New users only. All right, Sniper West. You did very well the first couple of weeks. I think you're something like 4-1 on the day with your early picks. So tell us what you got going tonight.
I will do so, but I will do so after telling you that the teppanyaki and the hibachi is by far my favorite meal. We do that for my birthday every year with the family. So, and I'm a filet and scallops guy. I do filet, scallops, and fried rice. That's my teppanyaki order.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go right into Michigan State and Boston College here. So this line is actually +4 now, okay? I got it earlier in the week at +6.5, which shows you that if you get these games in earlier in the week, you can get a much better number than getting it right before kickoff. But I still like Michigan State +4 here, okay? So Michigan State, their new coach, Jonathan Smith. It's a tough schedule that they have, but they did beat FAU, Maryland, Prairie View. The wins haven't come very easily, except for that Prairie View game because they're an FCS school. But Boston College, obviously they beat Florida State and Duquesne. They actually accumulated 564 rushing yards in those two games, so they're running the ball very well. But I like Sparty. I think they're going to hang tough here. Catching points is pretty nice. Michigan State, they're number 14 in the country as it relates to yards per game allowed. So I am going to take Sparty and Michigan State here. I think they're going to hang tough versus Boston College. That's your first lean. Your second lean, I'm going to go to Tennessee and Oklahoma. I like the under here. So it's under 56.5. I got it 57.5 earlier this week, but it's under 56.5 now, and I still like it. So now I'm going to butcher this name, Loud. Maybe you can help me out. Nico Iamaleava. Did I say it right?
Close enough.
I'm just going to call him Nico. So he's a freshman quarterback. He's lived up to expectations, but this is his first road test, right? They're going to Norman. Despite not having faced a really good offense yet, Tennessee's defense, they perform well, and that's probably because they haven't faced anybody, relevant yet. But, they have a great pass rush. They're very good against the run. They're second in the nation in defensive EPA rush. And I think they're going to give Jackson Arnold fits because they do have a great pass rush as well. And Oklahoma's defense, they've been really good against the run too. They rank 9th in EPA rush, so they can control the line of scrimmage and limit rushing yards, which is very crucial to the underplay here. And I like the defenses, and I'm going to go under 56.5 between Tennessee and Oklahoma. Okay. Your third lane is going to be Iowa. If you want to money line them, you can. It's -140, but that's a little juicy. So for the purpose of the video, I'm going to go Iowa -2.5. It's the Floyd of Rosedale rivalry game. Minnesota's defense has been very good. Back-to-back shutouts, only one touchdown allowed through 3 games. The defense has been impressive, but the betting market just doesn't seem convinced it's going to translate into an automatic win against Iowa because they really haven't played anybody. But the Hawkeyes, they've had a strong start. They shut out Illinois State in the season opener. They did lose to Iowa State, which was heartbreaking for them, but they responded in week 3. They beat Troy 38-21. And, good D, much needed offensive boost. They're a lot better on offense this year. And with Kirk Ferentz, it's, a lot of years their offense is just so boring, but this year it's a little bit better. So I like the Hawkeyes. I'm going to take Iowa -2.5 over Minnesota. Also like Baylor tonight over Colorado. So both teams come in 2-1. It's just hard to back Colorado. They can't run the ball. They have a ton of defensive issues. Colorado did beat Colorado State, so they could have a letdown here. Colorado State, they're just not very good. And Baylor, they've allowed 230 rushing yards so far in the year. That's not just in one game. That's for, I think they played two or three games, but 230 yards, that's pretty good, for 2 or 3 games. And we like Baylor's defense. Dave Aranda, he's a great head coach. He was coordinator at Wisconsin and LSU before he got the Baylor gig. And he's going to turn around that Baylor defense. He's already done so. And so I like Baylor +1. I actually got a +2 earlier this week, but they're +1. I think they beat Colorado tonight outright and beat Deion Sanders and primetime. And I hope Colorado goes down because I don't like Colorado. They get on my nerves. Go ahead, Len.
I had one pick earlier today, and I have 3 late picks behind the paywall. Tennessee, Oklahoma. It's a point spread side bet. Georgia Southern, Ole Miss, it's a point spread side bet, and Michigan State, Boston College, I've got a point spread side bet. I can't tell you what they are until after that game kicks at 4:30 because that wouldn't be fair to the people that have bought my picks because they're behind the paywall over at Winners and Winers. But I had the bad beat earlier today. Everybody who's an avid sports bettor or card player or whatever, you accumulate bad beat stories. And so I had the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets +10.5. And they were hanging tough all game. Hanging tough. They go to kick a field goal to put it within another field goal to beat Louisville. And not only does it get blocked, it gets blocked and returned for a touchdown, which put them exactly enough points over that I was no longer covering the spread, and that's where the game ended.
Unbelievable. That hurts.
Yeah, that kind of thing when you're sure you have it in the bag, and then it's just like, I can't believe that just happened. And, it happens more often than you'd think. As a sports bettor, you get to witness acts of God all the time, and they generally go against you. Just saying. All right, you had another pick?
Yeah. One more play. And this one is actually the last game on the board. So if you're looking for the late night bailout, as we call
it. The late night bailout get right game.
The get right. That is going to be, I'm taking BYU +7 over Kansas State. You might say,
it's not Hawaii. It's not Hawaii this week.
Well, yeah, you know what? Hawaii is, I forgot. This isn't the last game. Hawaii is after this game. But this is they call it the penultimate game, I guess. So I like BYU +7 over Kansas State. So both teams come in here at 3-0. I think BYU is going to be an active dog. The line opened at 7. Well, no, it actually opened at 8 and it came down to 7. So there was some money on BYU right away. It actually came down to 6.5, and I grabbed it at 6.5, and then it went back to 7. So I'm kind of mad at myself because I didn't get the best line, and I pride myself in getting the best line. And I dropped the ball here, but that's okay. I still like the +6.5. If you remember, BYU, they beat SMU already this year, and SMU is a pretty good team. They beat Wyoming last week, and Wyoming's terrible. I'm sorry about that, Loud. I know you have a soft spot in your heart for Wyoming.
I do.
But Jake Retzlaff, 7 TDs and 3 picks, quarterback rating on 151. So they have good quarterback play, and they're tough at home. Kansas State, they played well. They just beat Arizona 31-7 last week. But they have big games coming up. They have Oklahoma State on deck. They have Colorado after Oklahoma State. So I think they could just overlook BYU's. Why would they care about BYU when they have 2 huge games on deck? I think BYU is 100% focused here because if they could take down the number 13 team in the land, Kansas State, that's going to be huge for them. So I like BYU to hang tough. BYU +7 is your penultimate late night bailout. And I'll go ahead and recap just for the people that maybe just tuned in. So I like Michigan State +4 over Boston College. I like Tennessee, Oklahoma under 56.5. I like Iowa -2.5. I like Baylor +1 over Colorado, and I like BYU +7 over Kansas State.
So something I've started doing, because one of the things about Winners and Winers that is unique is our totals are posted. I mean, not on the videos that we do, but on the actual behind the paywall pay picks that we make, which is what we're judged by. Our records are kept and are available to the public. They're right there on the website. Loud had a lousy NFL weekend last weekend, and the whole world gets to know it, right? And when you're on a hot roll, everybody gets to know that too. I started the day at about 66.6% on college football. So, man, if you're north of 55 over a long period of time, you're winning. And that's just the way it is in sports betting. Nobody beats the boys in Vegas long term. And as my friend Scott Wetzel says all the time. And, you know, you got to enjoy the wins when you get them, because they're going to, the big ones when you get them, because they're going to be few and far between. I've had a few in my life that have been very significant. And it's sort of like sports betting is kind of like golf, because most people are lousy golfers, but every now and then they get a birdie. And it's the birdie that gets you to keep coming back. So every now and then you get a big win, you hit a 5-team parlay card, or you put a significant amount of ducats down on a particular game and you get that win. And it's just, you know, this to me, sports betting, it enhances my enjoyment of the games, because like fantasy football does for people, you know, who cares about, you know, the Cleveland Giants game? But if you got a bucks running on it, or it's part of a parlay card, all of a sudden that game is a lot more interesting to watch. So enjoy it. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose, especially if you're a beginner, because you're going to learn the hard way that this is very hard to do, and to be successful at it takes a lot of work. Okay. I'm going to be releasing my actual picks in about 3 minutes of the games that are kicking at 4:30. But first, NFL tomorrow. A trend that I have noticed, and then I heard a bunch of other people start talking about it, which means I'm not the only one who's noticed, which upsets me, because that means the books are aware of it, which means that they are probably adjusting their lines for it already, which is unders have cashed like crazy in the first couple weeks of the NFL, and scoring is way down. Long pass plays are way down. Have you been noticing the same thing?
Yeah, it's the Tampa 2. I blame it all on Tony Dungy. It's the Tampa 2, right? They have those 2 deep safeties. So defensive coordinators, they do not want to get beat deep. They do not want to give up the big play. They will give up 2 defenders, move them back there, take away the deep threat, and say, I dare you to run the ball, which eats up clock, which leads to unders. Now, that being said,
which also leads to holding penalties. It leads to false starts. All you need to do in the NFL to not be successful is have one dumb penalty in a 3-play sequence. And it will likely kill your drive.
That is true. I think, though, with all that being said, I think this is the week that changes. I think there's going to be some overs this week. I think there's going to be some scoring. In fact, I have on my card, I have 6 plays released, and 2 of them are overs. I have 1 under, 2 overs, and 3 sides. But I think that there's going to be I think this week is going to be some banger games. I think that I'll drop a little hint here without telling you what I'm on, but I think that Raven and Cowboy game is going to be an absolute banger, maybe game of the year type of game. And I think this is the week that those safeties start creeping up and they try to stop the run a little bit more than they have been, and bombs away.
Yeah, the problem for me in that Dallas Baltimore game is I don't trust Lamar Jackson throwing the football further than 5 to 7 yards, unless he's throwing it down the middle and the guy is wide open. Outside the numbers, he's terrible.
I hear you. 100% in agreement, which is why I think they are going to run the ball, because that's what New Orleans.
Yeah, exactly.
They just ran it down their throat. Yeah. So, Todd Monken is their offensive coordinator, and he's been notorious. Like that game against the Chiefs last year in the playoffs, I think they ran the ball like 10 times. Like, what are you doing? Yes. Yeah. So they got to run the ball, because that's what New Orleans did. They just ran it down their throat. So you do that with Derrick Henry. You run it down their throat. And Lamar, he's going to get his legs involved too. So I think Lamar is going to run all over the Cowboy defense. And Derrick Henry.
He has looked reluctant. He has looked reluctant to run. But I think in this game, they can't go 0-3. So I think everybody on the Ravens is going to be doing everything they can. In fact, that's my free pick in the NFL video. And, I'll put it out here is the Ravens -1 is I think, one of the best plays tomorrow. I don't trust the Cowboys in a must-win situation because I don't trust their coach. And I don't really trust Dak Prescott in big games. Now, I don't trust Lamar that much either, but I think this is the week that Harbaugh puts his foot down with his offensive coordinator and says, hey, dude, we have Derrick Henry. We have Lamar Jackson. If you don't run it 40 times, you're fired.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. I completely agree with that sentiment. And I think that's what they're going to do. And I think they're going to do so successfully. I think, as far as the side goes, I do probably think the Ravens win this game just because they're going to be so desperate. But Dallas, too, that's a bad loss. That's kind of why I'm shying away from the side, because you got to think they want to bounce back. They got just manhandled at home. So it's a tough game from the side standpoint.
That problem can't be fixed by scheme. The problem that Dallas has is they're small. They're smallish defensive linemen, and they're smallish defensive ends, and they're smallish linebackers because they're fast. They prioritize speed on that defense, not beef. And so, I don't see how in a week you stop being small and therefore being able to be pushed around in the run game. I don't know how schematically you fix small.
Yeah, I hear that. And also, too, but it's another reason the Cowboys being that fast is their secondary is very good, which I think Lamar is going to not want to make mistakes in this game.
Right.
Which is why I think he's not going to want to throw the ball deep. And he's, in general, I think he's going to just tuck it and run because he knows that's his best weapon is his legs, really not his arm. And that's why, if you want like a free prop, I don't even know what number.
If they're smart, that's what they do. But I don't know.
If you want a free prop, I haven't looked at the number, but Lamar Jackson rushing yards over, I love that play. I probably should have looked it up, and I didn't even really think about it until I'm on the pod with you right now. But Lamar Jackson over rushing yards is probably a pretty good play tomorrow.
Okay, Christian, producer, by the way, has anybody asked us any questions? Because I don't have the chat in front of me.
No, nothing yet.
Okay, all right. So I can release the 4:30 games. Tennessee, Oklahoma has kicked, right?
It should have. We're 2 minutes past 4:30. So
okay, I'll give it a few more minutes. I'll give it a few more minutes just in case. All right. So NFL trend, the unders were cashing, and you're right. It's always the question of when is that week when that changes, right? Now, there are a bunch of matchups in the NFL. Obviously, every week there's 15, 16, well, depending on bye weeks, but we're not there yet. So there's going to be 16 games this weekend. Honestly, I hate almost all of them, and I'll go through and tell you why. The Bears and the Colts. Who freaking knows? Caleb Williams looks terrible. Anthony Richardson looks terrible. Both teams can play a little defense. Blah. I just don't know. I don't like betting bad teams against bad teams. Giants versus Browns. Same situation. The Giants look awful. The Browns look awful. Neither one is getting very good quarterback play. Now, the Browns have a much better defense in theory, but they haven't been playing like it.
Yeah.
Packers, Titans. This is an injury problem for me. Okay, so Malik Willis won that first game where he had come in for Jordan Love. And I don't think there's any chance in the world, even if Jordan Love can play, they're going to play him in this game with the schedule that they have coming up. They can't afford to wreck him for the season.
Minnesota on deck there, too. So you got to think they want to have him rest up.
Exactly. Got a big division game coming up. Eagles, Saints. The Saints are my team, so I don't bet on them. By the way, good advice for beginning bettors. Don't bet your fandom. Don't bet a team because you like them. That is not a good strategy. Chargers, Steelers. Again, uncertainty for me. How healthy is Herbert? And are they going to play him with their next game after this being the Chiefs? I don't think so. Unless he's 100%, and I don't think he will be. Texans, Vikings. The Vikings shocked the hell out of me beating the 49ers, and the Texans haven't looked great. So I'm a little confused as to who those two teams are. Broncos and Buccaneers. Okay, the Bucs defense hasn't looked as good early this season, but the Broncos look absolutely awful. But At home, does Bo Nix get a little more comfortable? Again, that game, 6 points. I'm just not comfortable with it. Panthers, Raiders. I'm sorry, you can't get me to lay any points with the Raiders, even coming off the win against the Ravens. I think the Ravens gave that game away. And the Panthers' problem has been, well, no, they got lots of them, but at least Andy Dalton gives them a fighting chance. And so oftentimes when you put a new quarterback in, you're running a different kind of scheme. He's an experienced guy, and he may do a Flacco-like effect, like last year with the Browns. I don't know. Dolphins, Seahawks. Now, that is one I've got a behind-the-paywall pick on. I see this game very clearly. And, Wes, I'm sure you know why. Quarterback issues. Lions, Cardinals. 3 weeks ago at the beginning of the season, I would have been all over the Lions -3. After what the Cardinals did to the Rams and how the Lions have actually looked, I don't want anything to do with that one. And then the 49ers, Rams, both teams are a mash unit.
Yeah.
You know, Kittle's out now too for the 49ers. So they can run the ball, and they've got, you know, they're going to triple team Brandon Ayuk. And, you know, no Debo, no run DMC, run MCC, no McCaffrey, I mean. The Rams, no Nakua, no Cooper Kupp, and their offensive line is terrible. Yeah. So that leaves me with that Ravens-Dallas free pick where I like the Ravens. And I've got to talk about the Sunday night and Monday night games, which, by the way, Monday is a doubleheader. I'll be talking about those games tomorrow night on Betting in the Break. Here again, we will be covering the Sunday night and Monday night NFL games and Betting the Break tomorrow at 4:15. So, one of my philosophies is, Wes, is that a bet not lost is a bet won. Because I believe that people should, at the beginning of the season, set a certain bankroll or a certain budget, right? They should be saying, okay, this is what I'm willing to risk on football this year. This is my bag. Right? This is my bankroll. And if I burn through this too fast, I'm out of money for the season. That's the way I discipline myself on, and that's what I think everybody should do. Have a certain number at the beginning of the season and try to sort of limit what you do every week, because you never let 1 week to blow you out for the entire season. So that being said, I look at it this way. If I don't have a really good feel on a bet on a game, I shouldn't be making it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like the old expression, you can't win if you don't play, but on the flip side, you can't lose if you don't play too, right? So, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's all about bankroll management and how many units are you betting per game. You know, with winners and whiners, we're allowed to, as handicappers, they grade everything as to win $100, right? Not betting $100, but to win $100. So all these football games, you're pretty much, you know, either laying -120 or -110 juice to win 100. They grade them that way because it kind of makes it fair, because if somebody does like a 10-unit bomb or something like that, like they do on other websites, and then all of a sudden you're up 10 units and the guy who does 1 unit per play he went 3-0 and he's up 3 units, but the guy who went 1-0 is up 10 units. And so everybody thinks that guy's better, but the other guy went 3-0, right? So it's not necessarily better. So I like how Winners and Whiners does it. They do it on a 2-win $100 basis. And you got to manage that bankroll. You don't want to be, you know, betting. If you really like a game, I mean, there's some schools of thought where you can go 1 to 8 units, right? Where if you really like a play, it's an 8-unit play, right? Like meaning $800, right? To win 800. But your average bet is going to be to win 400, which, you know, then you got to get into your bankroll management. And then, you know, if you lose your 8-unit play, though, you might wipe out your bankroll and you got to start over. So a lot of different schools of thought. As far as
that's where people get into that, and that is where people get into trouble. They say, all right, I'm only going to bet this much per week, but man, I really love this game, so they triple what they would normally bet, and now they've bet money that they really shouldn't have bet, and they lose, and so now they're going to try to go get more money to make up for what they've lost, and then you just start and then you're betting emotionally, and that's terrible.
Yes.
If you have a bad afternoon at the sports book, go home.
Yes.
Come back next week. Don't run to the ATM.
Yeah, chasing is what gets you in trouble. You lose, you're down a little bit in the morning, so you bet a little more in the afternoon. You lose more in the afternoon. You put it all in the Sunday night game. You lose the Sunday night game. Then you're like, what happened? You know, it's kind of funny. You and I were talking last week, Loud, and you said, the most depressing place, one of the most depressing places in the world is the sports book at about 8 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah, there's just a few losers hanging around looking for tickets people didn't cash. It's like the lower section of the horse racing place. The guys that are there for the free hot dogs. Just saying. All right, Sniper West, thanks. By the way, my plays tonight that were behind the payroll: Tennessee -6.5 at Oklahoma, Georgia Southern at Ole Miss. I got Ole Miss -34.5. And I went the other way on the Boston College game. I like BC -4. So we'll see. You and I are on the opposite sides of that one.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. We could each cash the ticket because I got it at +6.
You got it at +6.
You got -4. Right. Yeah, and you got it -4. So if that ends at 5, we actually middle it and we both cash. So let's cross our fingers for
that has happened. Live betting wise, especially in hockey games. And we'll get to hockey when that starts later. But I have a philosophy where I bet on the team that I think is going to win. And then if they go down early, I do a live bet on them to win. And if it brings your odds shorter, and then if you end up winning that, it's a big winner. And I can't tell you the number of times that I have split tickets like that where I have somehow managed to win on both sides of the game because I got the line at different points. Like I took it like the Raiders. I'd never bet on the Raiders, but let's just say hypothetically, the Raiders were +6 at the beginning of the week. And I took the Raiders, and then the line comes down to -3 and I take the Panthers at -3. If it ends up being 4 or 5, you win both sides.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, all you lose is the juice on one ticket.
Right. So always all kinds of interesting strategies we can think about. He's Sniper West. You can find his stuff at Winners and Winers and follow him on social media at the Sniper Picks. I'm Loud Esmond. This has been Betting in the Break. Thanks for being here, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow at 4:15 about the late NFL Sunday night game and the Monday night doubleheader.